Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of the Rewatch podcast, presented by the Terrible Video Gamers Club. I'm your host, Tyler Schatz, who just wants to play Sega and sleep. Joining me this fine recording session are one Stephen Howard.
Who just wants to be recognized. I'll be honest, before we talked about this, we said, oh, are we going to find like a funny or a happy quote to put on to these things? And there are no funny and happy quotes, so that's my thing. I just want to be recognized.
Amanda Howard.
I think I'm the third one. I'm so glad you called on me third. This worked out perfectly.
One Josh Cox.
Yep. These are some episodes.
And last, but certainly never least, Gary Delaney.
Asuka is crazy and terrible at her job. Rey is a soulless husk of a human being and great at her job. Sorry, no new news here.
That was our summary, right? We don't need a...
Yeah, we're done, guys. We're done. That was
no
the
new news.
that was the
that's
podcast.
What my feedback was like no new news. Like,
Man.
Well, anyways, we are here to discuss episode 22 and 23 for Neon Genesis Evangelion for this recording, but we're going to kick it off with episode 22. JC?
Episode 22, Don't Be, or Staying Human. Asuka, haunted by childhood memories in the previous battle, begins to lose her self-confidence as a pilot. A new angel appears in space and invades Asuka's psyche through a strange beam of light.
Hallelujah, what an episode.
So Tyler posted that. We have a group chat, and Tyler posted a hallelujah meme, and I'm like, I get that. I understand where you're coming from there. That's brutal. And then Gary made an even worse comment.
okay, so I looked for a GIF of an angel because angels are a recurring theme in this show, and I found an angel GIF that just at the bottom says "Miss you, best mom ever," and I was like, "Whoa, that's the winner! Got the winner there."
But
it's really depressing to like scroll through memes of angels to try to find the darkest one possible.
Oh my gosh.
I won't even lie though, too. Like, I wanted to post like a hallelujah gif right after I had watched the episode the first time, but then I was like, I'll let everyone come to that on their own there for that time.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yeah, so this was a very, very revealing and depressing episode about Asuka slowly kind of losing her confidence, which has been the key factor kind of for her character, it feels like.
Yeah, and I mean, we get a huge look at Asuka's fairly tragic backstory as well. I guess for myself, and that maybe that's my first thing to start on. And I don't know if we want to talk on it now or if we want to talk on it at the end of this episode, but did your overall opinion of Asuka change after this episode? Because I know that when I first watched that, and when I did watch this again, she has some major trauma. I mean, I couldn't... everything she goes through, it does make me feel bad for her. No, does it excuse her being an asshole to everyone? No, it doesn't, obviously, but maybe it gives us a little bit more of a reason as to why she is this need-seeking, attention-seeking, needs to be up front and the number one person for everyone sort of person. Tyler?
It definitely like reinforced one of the character tropes that's kind of out there that I don't know if I was thinking on it way back when, but like it's definitely one of those things that like this is somebody who is kind of outwardly projecting herself and putting everybody else around her down, or basically being harsh to everyone else around her, to then secretly hide some traumatic event or trauma basically in her past that has kind of affected her in a way that is forcing her to kind of push her emotions down and everything like that. Gary?
I feel like she just turned the amps up to 11. Like, she was always crazy. But in this episode, the problem is you don't figure out, oh, this is why she's crazy. You're just like, she has a really messed up youth. but I still think there's some missing pieces to this puzzle, and I'm not sure. And so I thought it was a little drastic. I felt like she didn't ramp up to it. It just was like, we went from like mean to other people to like suicidal and crazy, like mantic. So I just wasn't prepared for that. Steven.
I was going to say, when I looked at it, my thought was maybe we came to the same spot Tyler and I ended at, in that what she became in terms of she needs to be recognized by everyone, and I'm not sure. I think that she necessarily was mean, be, or was I guess I don't see her meanness as intrinsically separated from who she was growing up. I feel like who she was growing up and being number two to a doll with her mother and having all that chaos go on around her forces her almost to need to be that number one person in everyone else's lives, and that kind of drives her having to be mean to other people. That's
Do you think she's mean to other people because she wants them to think highly of her, or because she wants to stay on her own island? She grew up being an island and like to a doll that was taken over her life or her praise. And then she treats people like garbage, so they keep her on an island. Like she doesn't let anybody in. But maybe because she's just she thinks of herself like a doll, like a just a plaything, just a piece on the chessboard, but nothing. I don't know. She's crazy.
I think there's. Good.
You can go. That's all I got.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's somewhere in between the two reads so far. I think that child Asuka has experienced so much trauma, but also the adults in her life, aside, like her mother had her own set of weird trauma, but then her father is like just breezes past things by moving on, like hooking up with the nurse in the side room and stuff like that, and just immediately remarries.
Whoa! I haven't ever been introduced to a father. I don't remember a father in any of that episode. I remember my father left me, but I didn't really get a like. I didn't. Maybe it just was a flash and you miss it.
So it's so we get to the big flashback scene with Angel getting into her mind, which is its own scene to unpack. But then once the flashback starts happening, we get the point where we realize that his mom or her mom is talking to a doll, and she's assigned Asuka to that doll rather than the older girl over there who was actually Asuka. And at that point, we hear somebody talking about like, oh yeah, ever since the contact experiment, she's just gone crazy. And we hear the nurse talking to this person like, oh yeah, you're so strong with your wife and your daughter. That's Asuka's dad hooking up with the nurse in the side room. And then she ends up like, we get the doll that she keeps playing with is also then given to her from her father's new wife, or the mom that she eventually gets a call from later on. Shatsy?
I wanted to ask this because this is kind of one of those things with watching the show like we do. I'm not keeping like some of the voices very straight in my head unless they're like clearly the characters on screen. Is that voice actor or actress, sorry, playing the nurse somebody who is in the show?
Not that I recognized, at least.
Okay. Because I was like, that it sounded just vaguely familiar, but maybe it could be just one of those things of like keeping the budget small, having voice actors doing multiple characters and stuff like that, and it got a little too close to an existing character.
There's in the flashback, I think she's voiced by several other actresses.
Yeah, there's at one point in that flashback, she has the "Who are you? I'm Asuka Langsoryu. Nice to meet you," and like goes through those classic scenes of her. Now's my chance, and that is, I have it I think, written down here somewhere. But it is basically every other main female voice actress in the show. It does her lines instead of Asuka in that bit.
Yeah, that part I picked up on the different ones. It's just the one who was the nurse. I was like, that almost sounds vaguely familiar of one of the characters in the show. But again, though, with the budgets and everything, the way they probably are with the show here, it could just be a voice
was redubbed.
actress. Sure. It could just be a voice actress kind of playing a different character, but the voice is, like I said, just kind of similar enough to somebody already in the show.
That's a really good catch, honestly, because these episodes I watched with Steven, so we switched back to Japanese, so I've been getting used to the English dub voices, and all of a sudden this time there was a couple times where I'm like, I have no clue who's speaking because I've gotten used to the voices.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I did
that
not
would be
pick
even
up on
more
that.
tough. Switching voice actors from English to Japanese would definitely ruin that scene, unless it says it, because it doesn't say in the subtitles.
No,
like,
yeah,
as
she just
voice
says it. I'm just
sub.
sitting here blinking, trying to keep up with what's going on in front of me. Steven's trying not to shoot me obvious glances out of the side of his eyes because he's trying to see my reaction to the show at the same time that he's watching it.
No. It wasn't because of that. It's because like things are happening on the screen, and I know you have to be watching it in Japanese to actually get what's happening. And Amanda's sitting there on her phone typing
I'm
away
taking
and notes, and I'm like,
notes.
"You're missing it. You're missing it all. What are you
Oh,
doing?"
that's so much
What?
worse than you watching for my reaction. Steven's sitting there watching, annoyed
Just
that I'm not
judging.
watching every second, and I'm like, I have to take notes, otherwise I show up to you guys and I go, yeah, that was an episode, huh? I don't have points otherwise. And you
After
won't let me
last
pause it
episode-
every 2 seconds.
After last episode, and I realized I went on a pause spree before, if I would have just sat through it, it would have made more sense, but I started pausing way too early to try to find
Amanda.
all 300 faces in this 30-second clip, and I was like, I could have just not.
So-
Such a waste of time.
I might have to pull you guys and watch it and then go back and watch it again so I can pause it and take my notes where
you
it won't
flip.
drive Steven nuts. We did not pause it for my notes one bit. We did pause it for other
Well,
things
that would
having to
make
walk
it
away. But
more difficult to take notes is because I still have to pause, especially when I don't have anything really intricate or inspirational in my notes. But if I have something where I just want to take a beat, kind of make a note, and then let it continue. But trying to take notes while it's going active would be nightmarish. Tyler.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend enough. Watch the episodes through once just to be a casual observer of it, to try and take it all in, and then watch it through a second time to take notes.
Entirely agree.
I'm the opposite. I like to take notes the first time, and then I like to fill in the notes the second time.
I mean,
with the more what do you get on the first? What are your reactions the first time seeing this? In order. So not knowing that thing B happens after thing A. Just absorb it and take notes as it's coming to you, and not be spoiled by knowing what the joke, the punchline is later. Steven?
So I feel like it's the two different ways we're talking about watching it is you can either look at the tree and then zoom back and see the forest, or you can watch and see that there is a forest there and then start looking at the individual trees. And I think personally, if you start on a big spectrum, you watch that entire episode, you see all the trees, and then you go in and focus on those small details, you learn more about that forest than you would the opposite way.
I would agree if I was doing this for something like a school or a class or something. That was a very orderly way to take my notes. However, for this thing, I like to have my reactions from the first time because they're much more interesting to talk about than me taking straight notes. So I am enjoying doing this different ways. I am enjoying watching some in English, some in Japanese, some with Steven, some on my own, some with the freedom to take the notes however I wish. But there was one scene, I don't remember if it was this episode or the next episode, when I think it's this one. Yep, when they're in the elevator, and I honestly thought about going back and timing how long that elevator scene was, and I thought it would just drive Steven insane. Luckily for me, IMDb has it written down in their thing, so I don't have to.
Perfect.
What is IMDb's answer?
53 seconds long.
All right. I made the comment while we were watching that Gary's gonna hate this.
He did.
Okay, so that's the difference. that's the difference on a first watch or second watch for me. The first watch, I just made the note, this scene is going on forever. The second watch, I timed it. So that was the value added, is I was like, my initial reaction was like, this is taking forever. Like,
Did you give it 53 seconds? Is IMDb right?
I got 50.
Mm.
Like, I'm going on Netflix's time remaining number.
Mm.
And I was like, is it like 30 seconds or is it a minute? I was like, it's a little less than a minute. I'm going to say 50 seconds.
Okay.
There's a sniffle in there. And I go from when you lock in to when Ray makes her line was like, yeah, belongs. Holy bat shit.
I
Like,
love that
nothing
scene,
was moving
honestly.
either. Like, it's not like the stupid escalator where something's moving in the background to give perspective of motion. It was just like locked in on pause.
I think compared to the rest of the episode, like that kind of scene in other shows usually does drive me nuts, like like a cringe humor or just taking forever. I'm like, I am losing my life here. Just I am not getting any younger, and you're wasting my time with this. But this scene, for some reason, I thought it was hilarious, especially just because Ray is clearly not bothered at all. She does not care less about the tension. And then she even she even kind of cares. She offered her 2 seconds of advice, and she moved on with her life.
Also, yeah, on the second watch, I caught, I don't know if I just had the volume louder, like the ambient elevator clanking noises were a little much because it's just silent. There's a sniffle, and then they're just like clanking elevator noises to fill the silence.
First, you hate on the bugs. Now you're hating on the elevator. It's just a you thing at this point.
What I'm hearing is like the Foley artists for this show should be absolutely congratulated. Do they have their own little like pet cicadas somewhere to get their music from?
Ugh.
So that was a wild first section there of talking. Go ahead, Gary.
Do you want to go into, like, I guess my curiosity is like, what happened to Asuka's mom based on context clues we know so far, or not? Yeah, Asuka's mom. Because I take it that maybe she hung herself, maybe she ripped off her head, maybe she, like the doll, like she
I don't think
wanted
it's
to murder both of them.
Are you talking about the finality of what happened to Asuka's mom, or are you talking about like big picture of what happened to Asuka's mom to basically, you know,
she interacted with I'm guessing an Ava or a robot or an angel or something to make her go crazy.
The contact experiment, I think.
Oh my gosh, instantaneous conspiracy theory.
Oh shit.
She interacted with the angel that causes Asuka to go insane. Because she obviously went insane, and Asuka was also very insanified. Insanified?
Are we talking about the Hallelujah Angel here, or are we talking
Hallelujah Angel? The Hallelujah Angel is what made. That's. I feel like that. That's good enough for my conspiracy theory level. Like, there's not a lot of good ones here because I'm usually just absolutely confused as to what the hell's going on. So I'll take that one. But anyway, what's the finale? Back to the question. What's the finality of Asuka's mom? I don't know what happened to her. That's a secret that show is gonna keep from us for another 5 episodes. I think it's said that she commits suicide, and based
that's
on the
as far as
dialogue,
I got.
Based on the audio dialogue, perhaps she was like trying to like have Asuka join her in this final decision. It was weird.
Yeah, that was my read from that whole scene segment.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Also, speaking of the stuffed animal, there's a stuffed bunny, which I think is not the one she thinks is her daughter, and then there's a stuffed doll. Like, and at some point you see a bunny and a doll in the scene at the same time. So I didn't know if one was just a stuffed animal bunny and one was the doll that was her.
I think the more Raggedy Ann style looking doll is the one that Asuka's mother used in place of Asuka.
Then what is the bunny?
The bunny is the one that her dad's new wife gave to her as a sort of token of like, hey, I'm gonna be your new mom. Here's a doll. Isn't that what you really want? Is a doll after all the shit you've been through? So
Okay, so that makes sense. So like one of them represents the doll her mother had, and one represents the doll that she was given as a gift, and obviously it was a triggering point. Okay.
yeah, with the,
Also,
I was gonna say with that doll symbology separated out by who they represent, then yeah, I do think that Asuka's mother ultimately ended up hanging herself and was wanting Asuka to also be there with her. And Asuka sounded like she wanted to be part of it to an extent, just because then her mom would actually be paying attention to her. But as to exactly the minute by minute breakdown, that's definitely the part that they don't get too clear on that. But that's what I infer from the flashback sequence, at least.
So I guess one of the things that I will point out is that so they have the flashbacks, or not the flashbacks, but the flash to the words. And unlike most of the flash to the words, this is all in German. So you have to really, it's difficult to catch all this. And it was very hard for me to find all these German words on the internet. I did actually end up finding them. And it does kind of give the story of, so it's nine is said a lot, nine being no in German. But then there are words strangled, hatred, shame, commit suicide with her, painful, stepmother, loss, insanity, death, and then a lot of no, 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 no. So that it's a little jumbled between all those words, and I don't think it's supposed to necessarily make intense, cohesive sense, but it's supposed to give you kind of an overall maybe feeling or picture if you were to learn German and read this in German, what may have happened.
So you played the pause game, or did the internet tell you all these words of like, hey, this is what's being said in this cutscene? Like, or did you look it up?
I could read some of them while it was happening. 9 was pretty easy to see.
9 I could see, but Ken confirmed he did not pause, at least not with me.
No, I did not. And I did try pausing. I can't pause fast enough to get that, so I had to actually look up on the internet to find it.
Somebody who did pause, and it's really not easy on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's really not. Netflix does not make it easy to be able to stop and see these words. So I did have to look that
double
up.
click. Like that's how I got through it. I just double clicked, and in the last episode, 3 frames would go in the amount of time you could double click. Anyway, I was just curious. I was hoping that I brought Steven down to my level. We were playing the pause game. A random question before we just did this episode not have an intro song?
Correct. There's a cold open of Asuka and Kaji hanging out on the carrier on the way to Japan.
So, but I noticed there's a cold open and the intro song never came.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
So in previous episodes, I thought it was like, hey, there's the intro song and I can't skip it because it's not at the intro. And this one was just no intro song. So.
That's good to know then, because I know I have a minor thing I need to fix with the versions that I'm watching there. Something got weird when I cut a big file apart there. So it's good to know this one specifically didn't have an intro song, because I was like, I wonder if I made a mistake here in my editing of this thing. But nope.
I mean, it could just be Netflix screwed up too. So.
No, it is an intentional choice for this episode. Yep.
Oh, Steven mentioned German. Do you know all the German that Asuka said on the phone?
I tried listening, but it's German in a Japanese accent, and I can barely know German in a German accent. So
you should rewatch the dub just for that scene, I guess, and see if you can pick it up. But yeah, I think from basically like I know I caught just like good night and things like that. Just seems very standard and familial.
Here's a silly behind the magic question. When they dub the German, do they use a different actress for the English dub of German and the Japanese dub of German? It's the same audio file. I assume that'd be a different actress. You'd notice they sounded different. I don't know.
I assume it'd be the
Never
same
thought about
actress just speaking German words, even if they don't understand what they mean, just phonetically reading them out. But
Yeah.
that's me.
But she also seemed really, really excited, like fake happy during that scene.
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what Asuka does, right? She fakes a lot of stuff. She gives off a very strong front, and then underneath, the second someone is gone, I remember going back to when Shinji saved her the first time, and she's so happy that Shinji did a great job, and she's like saying to Rei, "Oh, she did such a good job," and Rei leaves, and the second Asuka just punches the locker, like, God damn it, I got saved again. Like, she always has a really tough nut front, and I would say an insecure middle. And I think even there's the bathroom scene in this one where she's standing about to get into the bath, but she doesn't want to be in the water that Shinji or Masato's been in. She doesn't want to breathe the air that Shinji or Masato's been in. And she hates Shinji and Masato, but she hates herself even more, is what she says. And I think that's kind of the key there, is that she's very good at putting up a front for all these people. And I think we've talked about this again before. Each of these kids has their own massive psychological trauma to deal with, and I think that they also have their own ways of dealing with it. And Reyes is just by being an automaton. Shinji is by really wearing it all out on his sleeve, and Asuka is by just putting up a solid stone wall in front of her that you don't actually see who she is.
So on the first watch, before you get to the end about hating yourself, I just assumed she was like a germaphobe. Like you were gonna get a secret like reveal that she was like, I can't be in this water. I can't touch that toilet. I can't.
No.
And then it was like, no, I can't do air. I can't use the washing machine. And then it was like, I can't do air. And it's like, whoa. Like
No. With everything going on from that
I
episode
think,
there, I was just like, no, she is losing it there basically.
Mm-hmm.
personally, as a choice, I think that was a step too far too early in the episode. If she just was a little crazy, but she was like, I hate the air. And it's just like, whoa, I think you're a lost cause now. Like, sorry.
I was
If you hate air,
curious whenever we
you're a
got to
lost cause.
this episode if Gary would backpedal from some of the harshness that had been going toward Asuka so far.
Ramp it up to 20.
Doubling down.
Obviously, she has some things, but she doesn't. Apparently, I think Masato must know what happened to her mom.
Yeah, I think so. She's mentioned it before.
She was in Germany when I'm sure all this happened. Masato was over there, but
could be that, or just even like reading files. I would be my guess, but yeah.
And all the kids are under her auspice. You'd think that she'd know. Obviously, Rey's a different case, but she knows the general background of them.
Also, on the first watch, I was trying to put together if like Asuka could be like the daughter, like who's the mother father was, because as I said, I didn't catch who the father was. So for both watch throughs, I assumed that Gendo was secretly the father.
Fair.
But obviously,
how does that fit into the Shinji time clone theory, though?
I don't know. Like that was the problem. It's like, as I said, this episode proved that I'm so confused and I don't know what's going on. The conspiracy theories aren't even fun anymore because I need a base level understanding to mock of a conspiracy theory, but I don't even understand the base level. I'm
gonna get Gary nice big cork like board so that he can start pinning things up for his conspiracy theories and attaching them with string, and then we can trace out this. It's gonna take over the entire wall of a room.
Okay.
I mean,
Full
it's
Pepe
still very
Sylvia.
possible that Gendo is a time. Gendo, there's some sort of time. There's some sort of clone. There's but nothing is definitively proven that Gendo and Shinji are not the same person. Oh wait, damn it! They've been in the same scene together. They could still be clones. Anyway.
I thought you were going to say that it has not been proven that Gendo isn't a time clone, and I was like, I love that. There's no proving that he is. You have to prove that he isn't.
Anyway, yes, that was I knew that you guys would enjoy that like I was still trying to figure out who these kids' parents are and trying to, with with the available Guess Who board of existing characters, trying to decide who their parents could be. Anyway, I've been rolling, so my next question is Kaji. I didn't catch it the first time. I caught it the second time. That Asuka tries to call Kaji and doesn't get an answer.
Yep.
And on the second watch, I put down my notes that perhaps Kaji is the only stability Asuka has in her life. Because once she can't talk to Kaji, everything freaking explodes.
That sounds like
So-
another conspiracy theory.
It is my sorry. The conspiracy theory is that Kaji is the only thing keeping her glued together. I was
don't
hesitant on that
disagree with that.
conspiracy theory in
Yeah.
case there was some deep sexual interaction, but I think it tries to slap that down pretty heavily, that Kaji behaved himself.
I think. Sorry,
go.
you go for it.
I say we do get that reassurance in the opening of this episode where we've previously said, like, Kaji, why aren't you shutting this shit down? Turns out he did. Back in before we even saw him show up in episode 5, he did shut it down. He said, "Hey, this is not ever going to be a thing, Asuka," and she freaks out at that point. But yeah, I really like the read that Kaji is her sense of stability, because as we see from the flashbacks, like, she says something about how the way she's going to get through life now to avoid this pain is she's just going to grow up really fast. And she keeps looking to Kaji for this adult relationship that she's hoping for. And now that he's not even answering the phone call, the phone's disconnected. She's just inconsolable now that she can't have this.
And he wasn't like, I don't know if he just like had gotten so bored, like, so just ignoring it, or if like ignoring it gave her like he maybe is he's really the hero of the revolution here. He understands that he's the rock that Asuka needs to move forward. And so he has to ignore her and let like kind of let her flirt, because that's the only human thing she does. Other than that, she's just mean. Like, Kaji's the only one she's nice to. Like, it's crazy. Anyway, that was my.
I do have several notes in here of just like, she just can't be nice. She just can't get over her feelings of being she's superior. She literally can't share air with them. And I wrote down at one point, Shinji, geez, Asuka, when are you going to stop measuring yourself to him? I thought that's so funny because she clearly looks down on him. At the same time, she gets furious the second, like she thinks that that I can't tell if she thinks Shinji's better than her or that she's annoyed that everyone else seems to think that.
Well, I think I said this as well before, but I think she made her entire personality after coming to realize that, or not coming to realize, I don't think that was coming to realize, but she needs everyone's attention. And she made her entire personality out of being the winning person, the one who's going to go up and fight, the one who's going to go up and win, the one who's going to save the day. And when she loses all of that, she's not even number 3 anymore, right? She's basically number 3 minus, and she's losing herself in the most abstract sense of the way. She has no conception of who she is as a person anymore. She's lost Shinji. She's lost Kaji as her rock, and just no one's paying attention to her like she wants them to. No one is appreciating her or showing her that she's number 1 like she wants to, and she's also not proving to herself that she is number 1. So what is she? And I don't think she knows.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Reed. That she's essentially, her one personality of being the best is now crumbling because she's not the best. I think she does, on some level, recognize that Shinji is better than her and actually a nice person in some ways, and I think that also then just at the same time gets underneath her skin that much more that she does recognize, like whenever he answers the phone and she's trying to needle him for like, oh, Shinji being such a big man answering the phone, just he's just being nice, and she's just trying to do anything to get underneath his skin to bring him down a peg and try and get herself to at least be superior in some sort of mental game of just needling each other. And even after the phone call, Shinji catches her and says like, "Oh, it's nice to have a family." And she's like, it's my stepmom. We talk. It's whatever. We're not really close, but hey, why am I even talking to you? Just again, that moment where she, on some level, wants this sort of closeness, but she also just denies herself that as well, just because she has this overriding need to feel superior. Gary?
Also in the flashback, you realize that she has always disliked Masato, which kind of sort of explains why she's so mean. Like, to the one, like, adult person who is literally her boss in some sense, like, just mean to her all the time. Like, maybe because her love interest used to date her. Also, you mentioned the scene with the phone call. Like, that scene is a lot more tense when you realize that Masato knows that it can't be Kaji, but she just like she's still in grief too, but she's in secret grief because she doesn't need to add to these kids' drama that not only is Kaji dead, but he was a spy and there's a giant government cabal. Anyway, Stephen.
I think that I think it was fairly obvious that she hated Masato from the beginning. I'll be honest, because Masato has all of Kaji's attention. You know who Kaji? Hey, props to him for not sexually assault or sexual assaulting a 12-year-old at the time. Congrats, big hurdle to get there. But he is obviously very interested sexually in Masato, and I think that there's no way Asuka can take that.
Yeah, as I said, I still like my mind still just wraps around like how who their parents could be, like secretly.
Just a random note here too. Speaking of the phone call with the Asuka stepmom, it seemed like it was made to be that phone call took a while, and then I was like, was Shinji just standing? Because it's like the exact same scene. It's like Shinji just standing there behind her the entire time, waiting for her to get off the phone.
Well, if it's family, like if Shinji saw someone else had family, do you know how jealous he would be? Like, think of how much he's like a lapdog whenever he sees his dad. Can you imagine? Like, and all, yeah, he just wants to lap it up. He just wants a sense of what other people consider a normal family to be. And then the realization that she has just as messed up of a family life as he does. Steven?
I agree with both of you. I think it is. I think he was definitely just bathing in the sunlight of, oh, someone has a nice communication with their family. I will experience this via osmosis. And also, Shinji's just really weird like that. He likes to experience the other people's happiness via that osmosis, and it's like that one person standing there just smiling, going,
No one gets this. Oh, Steven was distracted.
I'm sorry. I got so we have our cameras on, and it is apparently raining outside. And in my camera, I saw a lightning bolt flash down, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." So, anyways, I got
Shiny
distracted.
things.
I saw it
Shiny
too,
things.
but I feel like if that had happened to me, Steven went like, "Wow, distracted easily much." Immediately, Steven's like, "Oh, lightning! I must look out the window."
Look, if I am the one to recognize that, I don't know, Thor's coming or something, I have no idea. I don't have an excuse.
Thor's riding the
Thor's-
wagon in the sky.
Yeah.
Chariot in the sky.
Thor has arrived.
Honestly, I thought maybe like he heard hail or like somebody, like there's a robber banging on the door because he just stops talking. He turns around.
Sorry,
Like, oh.
no. Nope, that was me being very easily distracted. I apologize.
Anyway, what were you saying before you got distracted?
Just that Shinji's very awkward about social things, and that two people can be having a very, very nice platonic conversation, just a very friendly conversation, and he'll sit there just smiling the entire time, just taking it all in, absorbing it, because it's a nice conversation, and it's really nice for him, and it's probably awkward for everyone else in the face of the planet.
I will say on 2 points that one, we know that Shinji wasn't just eavesdropping, at least because we know he can't think in German because Asuka had to switch her Eva to Japanese. And also, yeah, it could just be one of those things that because he didn't know the conversation, what they were saying, then maybe he's just thinking like, oh, there's gonna be a quick phone call, and then he just sits there standing, and then all of a sudden he realizes, oh no, I've been standing here too long. I can't stop now though. Now it's, yeah, it reads as a conversation that he was standing there for a while, like a weirdo.
So Shinji kind of a backseat character in this whole episode. Like I don't think he ever really this episode's definitely a lot more focused on Asuka. Yeah.
Well, I think
But
we
he's
know
just like
virtually all of Shinji's backstory at this point, from inception to where he is right now.
Dale could be a time clone. We
Right
don't
now,
know
being
that
So-
yet.
commander of NERV,
You're right.
Gendo Ikari.
You're right.
Yes.
But yeah, but we don't. I think this is fleshing out everyone else's thing, and I think we've always thought that Asuka was just braggadocio, and forgive my language here, braggadocio bitch, and she's not. She has a whole bunch of crap going on, and I think the way that this is the show is structured to let you have this view of Asuka throughout the entire thing, and then kind of flip it on its head at the very end. I like that. I like the coming in with, hey, it's built her to be something, and it's going to completely flip that character around and give you a whole new perspective that now, if you look back on all those episodes, if you look back on her, you're seeing this all with a new light. So you've watched these things twice, basically.
Yeah, I agree. To me, the show builds up that way. It is showing us the old adage that like you don't really know what other people have going on behind them, like that everybody's struggling and you don't really know in what ways. And we see that Asuka's, I mean, Shinji has had some messed up stuff, but I would argue that Asuka maybe has had even more of a messed up home life. Now, like she's had to just sit there and be part of the family that is broken and harmed by the mother's death, whereas Gendo at least just sends Shinji off to hang out with the school teacher and just live a somewhat normal, if family isolated life at that point.
And I don't think that we can underestimate the amount of psychological damage that it would do to you, for your mother to not accept you as a real child and instead accept a doll in your place, and then ask you just to kill yourself with her because that's what's going on. That's an entire level of psychological impact that I'm not sure I can even quantify, comprehend, qualify. So yeah, basically it's all funny and happy and roses.
Yeah, it's just it's the dancing episode, right?
It's the dancing episode.
There are some other points I did want to kind of mention here about the episode. There is a part where Masato is talking there, and she mentions like Eva. Is it like all Evas are born of Adam? Yeah, I was trying to follow. I think this is definitely more touched on in the next episode too, but I was like they're trying to follow along with what she was talking about. Like all Evas are born of Adam, and then she mentions Eva construction has begun around the world because the budget has effectively doubled. Because is it NERV or is it Zila is basically pushing towards more Eva construction. They said the name and I was like, oh shoot, I forgot.
So I think that's two separate parts to be the like where first of all she's looking up at Eva Unit 0 and saying like, oh man, Eva's born of Adam. Is it worth the risk to humanity to have us piloting these things essentially? And separately, our man in the control room, Hyuga, comes up and is like, hey, I got some dirt from Beijing NERV is producing more AVA units up through Unit 13. And so ends up revealing that, hey, there's 7 more units being built, 1 at each NERV location. And so, yeah, they're discussing then, like, is this just because they expect there to be more angel attacks? I don't know. Seems weird that we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be told about it if it was just for more angel attacks.
So, just to clarify, there were 7 more being built, so there's going to be 11. Because the way I thought it was like they've got 4, and then they're building like 8 more to make it to 12.
Yeah, so
They have
I
4,
took
they
meticulous
scrapped
notes here.
5.
I'm glad you did, because this was right in the beginning, and I wrote up to 15 question mark because I couldn't remember it, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be allowed to pause and rewind.
Nope. I'll just read the full notes that I have here. NERV is producing more EVA units up through Unit 13 at 7 locations around the world. They discussed that Units 5 and 6 were already in Germany, and parts have been cannibalized in order to help repair Units 2 and 0.
I did say that. I remember that. You're right.
So is this just my old English teacher always hammering on about symbolism and symbology where it might not exist? But do we think there's any? There's 13 that they're going to be built. I mean, 13 is an unlucky number.
So,
Well,
We
sorry.
started at 0, Steven. I award you no points.
that's true.
Also, there's 3 right now, and 3 would be the number for the Holy Trinity. I got all this banged into me by the damn English teachers.
Yeah, but for a second I was like, oh, it's apostles, but aren't there just 12 of them?
There are 12 apostles.
So,
So
I
in
think this
13 plus 0, 14.
Well, there'd be
work.
12, but it'd be 12 plus 1 for Jesus.
Yeah, but these also count 0 as 1, so really you've got 14.
also though too, like I think it's maybe touched on. Yeah, that's definitely something from the next episode too that talks about there's like 1 more angel still to come from the Dead Sea Scrolls. There,
Yes,
so
that was so cool. I wrote that down. I remember writing that down. Why didn't
But-
I have it in my notes?
it's next episode though.
That would be it. This is a really random thing, guys, but at one point, Misato and Ritsuko are talking, and I just wanted to say I took offense at the drowning your loneliness with cats comment. Like, when are people going to wake up to the fact that having cats is
Yes.
not an insult? Does it insult you to say, wow, you have dogs?
To be
I
fair,
I was
did
not
not
offended. I was just like, this is speaking truth. This is the truth of the show that I can grasp onto. Even in a fictional
Justice for
world,
cats.
like you can insult someone because they're a crazy cat lady.
Justice for cats. We are going to fix this. Don't you worry, guys. I'm on your side.
Yeah. I feel like it's more of an insult because she's a single lady and she has cats. And obviously they're old friends, and so she probably Misato just knows turn the dagger. Like she's just like calling someone a crazy cat lady. I think Ritsuko jabs her back with the fact that she's like fostering these children. Like, so they're just jabbing each other back and forth.
Their relationship seems tense.
There's a little bit. There's something there.
It's
Some
definitely
issue.
an undercurrent of something going on between the two of them.
Egret.
You didn't come through at all there, Gary.
I heard you say egret.
Secrets.
Oh,
Are you saying secrets or egrets?
or regrets.
Secrets. They have secrets between them.
Okay.
Whispering is not worth it, I guess.
No,
Like,
it's
No,
not
it's
worth
not.
it.
This is a podcast, Gary. You're supposed to use your voice to communicate what you want.
Yeah,
How do you
I
make a
heard
whisper-
egret, and I was trying to
whisper
figure
word?
out
I
what
heard
Game of Thrones had to do with
That's
this.
I heard egret as well, and I'm like, egret's dead. She got shot in the wall, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm sorry. I ruined the joke that they have secrets between them.
They've known each other for a while, but still.
Yes. And then I don't know if we want to like the battle with the angel there. Ray launches the spear of Longinus into the altitude there.
Okay,
Okay, I have
excellent
a-
aim.
I have another random point, and that's that it's pointing out that Asuka is on her period, and I thought that that was a very poignant thing because, like, I feel like they just had to mention it just to remove that as an excuse
Did I
to why
miss
she's
that? When did they
craving.
say that?
They do say that.
Misato has a conversation with the tech. She's like, "Oh, well, she's on," or maybe it's with Ritsuko. It's like, "Oh, well, she's on her period. Maybe she's just off a little bit." And she's, I think Ritsuko responds is like, "Physiological changes make no difference in their connectivity," and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
So what's happening is Misato's trying to basically provide a little bit of cover for Asuka by saying, "Hey, maybe maybe it's her period. Maybe that's what's going on here." And Ritsuko's having none of that. Ritsuko's like, "Nah, she's just a failure."
But I thought it was
There's a-
interesting that they used that so it couldn't be used as an excuse."
You wouldn't
Oh,
ever just okay. This might be me just saying this, but I'm like, I'm sorry. I've literally never heard a girl make that joke to another girl. Oh, maybe they're on their period.
For one, I didn't necessarily see it as a joke from Misato to Ritsuko. There, it was more just like, hey, like mentally, she's just in a place, and also this is happening. And I've been trying to. I meant to go back to the episode to see if it was supposed to be her first period because Asuka is also pissed about it in a different scene. She's like in the bathroom saying like, "Why do I even have to go through this? I don't even want this. I don't want kids. I don't want any part of this. This
It was
sucks."
after that scene. She says that
Yeah,
why I don't want kids.
yeah.
Uh,
So it's feels like it's a bigger event for her than just like, oh, it's that time of the month. Because I mean, we've seen her piloting Evas for. It feels like they haven't been in there for just 29 days so far, or whatever her cycle is. But it's one of those things that like to me it felt like a bigger moment because of that. But
Life's been a little crazy in Nerve Land.
Mm.
And you just watch Shinji like turn into a mutant
Yeah, and no
transformer and
one
get pooped out, and
no one comments on that. It's just back to life as usual.
yeah, like, oh, well, you didn't know that they were actually like mutants inside the shell? Yeah, never mention again like that Ritsuko knew all this, and no one's like, are we gonna talk about all this information that you have but aren't sharing? No, we're just gonna go on. It's another Tuesday.
Actually, maybe that's why everything seems to be getting crazier and crazier. I'm not sure this is exactly what the show is building up to, but there are a lot of maybe unspoken secrets that are very well, what is it, obvious secrets that everyone knows, but no one's going to talk about going on here. And they keep building up and building up and building up, and it's causing the tension to rise and rise and rise, and they can't talk about it in the open. And so everyone's just on edge now, everywhere, every single person, and it's causing this dysfunction within NERV and within the pilots and everyone.
So there's like taboo subjects in the workplace.
It seems like it, yeah. Like no one fucking talk about the fact that Shinji was pooped out of a Evangelion. We're past that now. But
Also, going back to the elevator scene, I noticed that Asuka calls Rei a doll. Like, it was on the second watch after realizing that the doll has a lot of symbolism, is that she called Rei a doll, like, because obviously a doll is an object, is a like she doesn't up to this point you would never think that anyone has actually ever offended Rei. Like, so I just thought it was poignant that when on the rewatch I caught that she calls her a doll. Steven?
Asuka also calls her Evangelion a doll before she goes in to pilot it. She yells at the Evangelion, "You're my doll. You have to do what I say." So she's, even if she might not think that she's thinking about this, she is very much dwelling on this doll thing throughout this episode before she hits the hallelujah moment.
And then also too, we learned that Rei will actually kill herself if Commander Ikari says so. So Rei is devoted to the cause for sure.
As we found out in a
Just because
previous episode, she can be replaced. And then we figure out what that means coming up.
Yes.
Mhm.
Anything else from this
Also, we learned
episode?
Just I think the weapon that was used in this episode is both traumatic and was interesting to see. The Hallelujah Ray, as I like to call it, but it's a mental interface, basically, which drags the pilot of the Evangelion to their deepest, darkest thoughts and fears. And one of the things like this does is forces Asuka to confront who she really is. Because Asuka obviously has an impression of who she thinks she is, and this goes back to show her trying to show her breasts to Shinji, or not Shinji, to
Kaji.
thank you, Kaji, trying to do all do sneaky crap, trying to do all this things that she's not proud of, and it's bringing her up and saying, "This is who you are," and she tries to fight back by saying, "That's not who I am," and that's when we get into it's revoiced every single time with a different female actor, and basically saying, you can say this however you want, you can use whatever voice you want, these were the actions that you took. And Asuka is obviously very ashamed of those actions, or does not want to believe that those were really her actions. They don't represent who she is. And in this way, this angel is driving her insane by forcing her to confront that. I'm not even sure if it's trying to force her to confront that, or if it's just figured out that that was the weak link in her psyche. If it forced her to confront it, that would drive her insane. And if that weak link wasn't there, would it have found a different way of doing that?
Also, before her brain raise, I pointed out on the first watch that Asuka like unloads her gun into the city. Like, I feel like it just ignores all the collateral damage of shooting a rifle that can destroy a giant monster just into buildings, like on the skyline. I'm like, oh, we're just not gonna talk about that. You just fired like 4 bullets into those skyscrapers. Cool. We're not gonna. It'll be okay.
They
Well,
have a top-notch repair team. Did you see them fixing the pyramid in the earlier part of the episode?
I feel like I'm coming off as like the Asuka defend squad here, but as Asuka screams as this is all happening, they are raping my mind. I think she has other things that she is more concerned about than firing random shots at that point in time.
Hey, people are in those skyscrapers, Steven. And she shoots them at like point blank range.
Okay, they've already
Like,
shown that
With
they
a gun that can
evacuate.
make it to the atmosphere. Like,
They've already shown that they evacuate.
In
Yeah,
like
they're
2
they're all
seconds.
below the geofront. Yeah.
They're always safe.
I just don't believe. I believe that's the government propaganda.
They're just around the corner from the camera. They're pretty safe. They're
Yeah.
fine.
So they can run out of the green hills
Off
and
of-
see.
Yeah.
Find
But it is that
Kaji's
point-
plants.
Right. It is in that scene as well that Masato orders Asuka to retreat, and she again reiterates, from as we've seen in previous fights, no, I'm gonna stay. I'd rather die now than retreat again.
Mm-hmm.
And then
She even
ahead.
says to herself though, like she at least is aware it's her last chance because she knows if she fails.
Mhm.
Well, I think it's even
don't know.
said though by everyone. I think it was Misato. No, not Misato. Ritsuko has said. I think it's like her last chance too. Her final chance.
Yep. I mean, we've seen previously that the sync rate was low enough that they weren't even sure if it would activate, and they know that it's at a point where she needs to start improving, or else she's just not going to be combat effective. And so, yeah, I think it's the next episode that she ends up going up, and Gendo says like, "Yep, go ahead." But yeah,
I
it's
thought it was in this episode. She said they say like prep other options. Like, who else
Yeah.
can we
Yes.
get to pilot?
Yep.
Yeah, they start
Yep.
looking at other options that are available.
Mm-hmm. There's one last thing for this episode that I have, and that is when when Rey does get the Spear of Longinus and just yeets that into the atmosphere. First of all, her first shot to hit that damn angel was like a 17 mile-long gun that she fires to hit it. And this next thing is a spear that she can just go, whoop, and just get it up there. So whatever for that. But the more major, Gary?
Plus 10 to attack range.
There you go, plus 10 to attack range. That's what it was.
Inaccuracy. Just rolled
yeah.
at 20.
Yeah, accuracy. It probably is actually like a quadruple legendary, like, yeah, plus 10 to accuracy, plus 10 to distance.
It's an artifact. Yeah, no, it's an artifact level weapon. I mean, you don't find
plus
those.
75% to critical hit.
Like even if you argue that she's got like assistance and calculating trajectories and all that stuff, anyone who's ever thrown something is going to tell you that that's not how it works on the first shot.
But what's more important there is that when she does yeet that thing out into space, it does not come back. It blows up the angel and stays. And I think at the very end of the episode, I believe it's this episode, Professor
Fuyutsuki.
Thank you, Professor Fuyutsuki. Yes, says to
Gendo.
Now, Gendo, thank you. I'm forgetting everyone's name now that you said Fuyutsuki like that. Says to Gendo, was this your play? Was this how you wanted to get that out of there? And it's like, yeah, he's using this as a way basically to get rid of the Spear of Longinus. Why is he getting rid of the Spear of Longinus? Who knows? But one other thing that is said as they yeet the Spear of Longinus at this angel is apparently the idea of Adam coming into contact with an angel and just lighting up the rest of the world, the third contact, that's not real. That's not a real thing.
Third impact.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say that?
You said contact.
Yeah.
Sorry, third impact. That's apparently not a real thing. So what was the cause of second impact? What was it raises a whole lot of questions.
Yeah, and Ritsuko is the one who asked the questions because she's like, he is living by the rules of which you can use the Ava and the Spear of Longinus.
Also,
Also,
Masada who asked the question about the third impact part.
Sorry.
Yeah, she said then what caused the second impact?
I'm bad
or
at
was
names.
it not caused by an angel?
Masato. Yeah. But also,
So
yes, similar to Steven, I noted that the possible reason is like, is it hiding a secret? Like, or is it just to reduce the power of his enemies for Gendo? Sorry, Amanda.
Oh no, I'm just saying if the second impact wasn't caused by that, then I can't wait for Gary's conspiracy theories about what it was caused by.
You brought it up, you fool.
I'm sorry, I have
my understanding of what the second
take.
impact is frickin' quicksand. So I don't even have like any foundation to like build off of. I'm still going. The strongest theory in the show is time clones. So that's all I got.
All right, does that then cover everything for episode 22? Getting a lot of head shakes there, yes. So I think then we can move on to episode 23, JC.
Episode 23, Ray 3, or Tears. When an angel resembling a coil of light arrives, the assimilating ability of the foe prompts Ray to self-destruct the Ava Unit 0 in order to kill it and save Shinji. Ray later appears in the hospital, and Ritsuko reveals the terrible secret of the dummy plug system.
Did Tyler not know it was Tears? I just looked at his face and said Tears.
I just had a realization about the episode and what it also ties into here. The episode title, Ray 3.
Yeah.
This is the third Ray. This is the third Ray. It's just like, oh, Jesus.
It was they tell you right up front. So when Gary says, oh, they never planned any of this happening in the first place. Say what you want there, Gary.
Do you know what I'm talking about, though,
after you make an episode, you can name it? Like,
you do know what I'm talking about, though, right, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's Ray number 3.
Yep, just making sure.
And there's Tears.
She's the third one. She's having the tears again. I did want to point out one thing here with Masato. They kept panning over like her current space she's occupying there with all the food and stuff like that, all the empty food containers and stuff. I was looking at those cans for a brief moment. I'm like, this isn't beer. This is cans of coffee. Because I'm pretty for sure, like you see like the FEE on one of the cans. So I'm like, and they look like they're coffee beans printed on the can. So I was like, she just drinking, like they just drinking cans of coffee in this futuristic world.
I know that I did a search on the cans that they were drinking previously, and those were definitely beer. So I guess I didn't notice if he was drinking coffee now, but that would be a switch.
I'll have to see if I can't get a picture here for one of these times, but. And then Asuka is still going through her thing because she's then at the class president's place basically playing Sega on a Sega TV, which is very interesting. And then she
labeled Sega. I noticed on that it was a Sega Genesis shaped controller.
Yep.
And that would line up with when the Sega Genesis was popular. I think it was like 93.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the Sega Genesis.
Ha ha ha! There's something I know more about than Steven.
I'm sure there's many things you know more about than me.
But yeah, there's both.
None of them have real value in life.
Both the controller and the TV were labeled Sega there, which I thought was interesting that the TV was labeled Sega. But and then,
did Sega never make TVs? Just I don't know that.
To the best of my knowledge, probably not. But maybe there was like a special one-off TV they made in conjunction with something. I don't know. But then okay, I didn't write this part down, but I think this happened here at this scene here too, where Asuka and the class president are then finally going to sleep, and Asuka asks like, "What is it like? Am I important or do I have value or something like that?"
Yep.
And I thought it was like, again, she's seeking approval or reassurance from an outside source here.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I am going to me, that conversation that she has when she's, and unfortunately everything like this sounds sexual in our society, but they're having a sleepover. So she's sleeping in the president's bed and she's laying on her side and she's basically saying, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I feel like a failure. I can't do anything, blah, 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 blah. And the class president says, I don't know what to tell you. I think you're doing a good job. I think you did a great, I think you did a good job, I believe is the last thing. And when she says that, you see Asuka visibly curl up further into a fetal position. I don't think Asuka wants to be told at this point that she's doing a good job. She knows she's not doing a good job. And so anyone telling her that she's doing a good job is not going to help. I think I don't know, honestly, if she knows what she wants. She's just trying to reach out. And that's what I took from that scene is she is definitely reaching out. And she is more vulnerable than I think I've ever seen her be before. But I don't know if there is specifically a way to help her, but I don't think she wants validation anymore.
I read that as her trying to reach out to her peers. Like, so that's a world that is kind of separate of like you see when she's first introduced that obviously she shows up at school and she's the new the new kid who's mysterious. And then you find out she's an Ava pilot, but inside NERV, she's treated one way and she has some standards and people like obviously think that if she fails again, she's going to be fired. But in the school and like her social school setting, like they don't know that she's failed. So to the class president, like she's still nice. She hasn't murdered any kittens. She hasn't swore. She hasn't like broken anything. She's just a kid who's like obviously had some trauma. I'm sure the weird monster attack probably was all that the class president knows about. And I was like, oh, it's a crazy time at NERV. Like, so that's a world that is kind of separate of like you see when she's first introduced that obviously she shows up at school and she's the new So she's just gonna play video games and like, try to decompress. And obviously the class president thinks like you're doing fine. Like you're going through changes in your life and la la la. Like it's like, but if she doesn't know all that other stuff, it's that's the ruler she's measuring her by.
Yeah. Then I guess here too, I don't know, another minor thing that happened at the beginning of episode 2, speaking of Ritsuko and her being a cat lady, she's talking to what appears to be her grandma at the time and learns that one of her
They
cats
say
has
grandma.
died. What, Gary?
They say she says, "Hey, grandma."
Yeah.
In the it is her grandma. Sorry.
Okay, so you're just confirming that I am right, that it is her grandma.
I'm confirming that there is a grandma in this show.
Okay.
Oldest character introduced, grandma.
Maybe.
I don't know. They didn't Kaji meet with that really old woman that episode that he was being a really crappy spy?
Yeah. We at least got
Burn.
to see that person too.
Stand corrected.
And then we get another angel attack there, and this one is a very disturbing. Is not quite the right way to phrase it, but it's just a very kind of it's a different angel than what we've ever seen before, because it comes out after like they launch Rei to deal with it, and Asuka goes as support, but Asuka panics and freezes up and everything, and Shinji gets sent out afterwards. But it's like it's trying to, is it integrate itself with Rei, would you say, or is it more like take over and merge with Rei?
I think it's
Sucker life force.
Not a
I
vampire.
think it's merging. I think that they talk about it contaminating, and they get up to like a 5% contamination rate on her Eva. So I think it is merging, or it is somehow otherwise infecting the Eva, and through the connection between Eva and Rei, it is also infecting Rei. Personally, that's how I saw it.
I saw her skin shrivel up. Like I got the sense that her life force was being drained from her.
I think those are her veins expanding, actually. So like it's being shoved into her, and like you're injecting crap, and her veins are going.
Yeah, that's how I read it as well. It wasn't like
or contraction.
It wasn't a shriveling. It was more like her body was just basically being expanded as it's being, like Steven said, that force is just being shoved into her. And then just the way. Oh, go ahead, Steven.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's a brutal scene, and I don't know. There's we're skimming pretty quick here, and so I guess to pin us down on this specific point right here, I think the angel that we saw, I love this show for all the angels it presents. I don't think you could say one angel is in any way, shape, or form comparable to the next angel. They all have these really strange things about them, which means you can't quantify or guess what the next one is going to be. And this one is just like a beam of light in the sky that has, and they even say, has no real form. They don't know what the form is. They don't know what it's going to do next. And so what is Rei supposed to do? She's supposed to wait. But wait a second, and then it goes and attacks her and is trying to like merge with her, and it looks like it's targeting her drive. Personally, that's what it looks like to me. That the that line of light is going right into the drive of the Eva.
Did you guys catch that comment from Asuka too, where when they send out Shinji, she goes, "They didn't send him out when I was the one that needed help."
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was actually a good point.
Yeah, because
I got that too, and it's kind of a throwaway line too.
Yeah, it was a very quiet line, and honestly, I was like, yeah, actually, you're totally right. They did not.
Yeah, Ikari specifically said that Shin doesn't prove.
It proves that Gendo is in love with Rei.
All right. Well, I think It
when
showed
the chips are down, he will defend Rey and Unit 0 before he'll defend Unit 2 and Asuka.
my take on that is that he sees Rey and Unit 0 as a useful implement. He does not see Asuka as useful anymore. He's not going to.
I could see it either way. Like there's an argument either way for that. But 100% he definitely did send out Shinji, authorizing him back to active service for Rey and Unit 0, but not
Well,
when
I think
Asuka.
he was on emergency standby, right? And that's what he was all last episode. He was emergency standby. He is not to be deployed unless specific orders from Gendo. And this episode, yeah, they get it because Asuka doesn't freeze up when she gets to the top. When she's deployed, Asuka has a sync rate so low, her Eva will not respond. She is pushing on the controls and cannot sync with the Eva. So she is worse than useless in there. She's just a sitting duck. That's it. And Gendo, I think, was sort of prepared for that. He said, well, at the very minimum, she could at least be another target or something like that.
Decoy.
So, decoy, thank you. Gendo is playing a very Machiavellian game here. And I'm not sure that love or any sort of positive emotion comes into it.
Who is he mocking? I got an eye roll on Steven. Anyway, I feel like Asuka said that Unit 2 is like the newest, greatest technology. So I feel like there should be more value in the newest, shiniest Ava than what maybe the words of Asuka, that like Unit 0 is like a prototype. It's like a base model. Like it doesn't have heated seats or a cup holder. Like anyway,
I interpret the alternative read of that is that while it might have the fancier new versions, it's still a copy of the original. The prototype was created from Adam, is what we're told, or some sort of angel as their template. So then that's the original. It's the closest to God at that point. And now we're just getting further and further, making more advances, and it's getting further away from those intended original clones necessarily. So it might be less powerful in a sense in that for what Gendo's needing.
Conspiracy theory number one. I think maybe
Wait.
yeah.
Does
The
this
show,
count it?
the underlying message of the show is that the more technologically advanced you get and the more iterations of technology that you are able to come up with, the further away you get from God and the worse your life will be.
Is that really a conspiracy theory here, or are we just?
I wrote
You're
one
just
from
trying
Steven.
to insert global politics into the show.
Yeah, like this show hasn't touched on global politics yet.
How dare you? Next, you're going to start inserting emotional states into this show. We're just here to watch anime.
Symbolism. I don't think there's that much symbolism left.
Spear of Longinus. That's what even is that?
Did any of you guys like get all worried or panicked or scared that Rey was gone or was going to be gone?
We're jumping right to that.
Yeah, the first time watching this, I was like, they showed that what you assume is a bloody hand in that crushed cockpit. There's like Rey's dead.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. I literally was like, Rey gone. And they're all just not as much panic. Like we've had so many times where like one of them has been in danger and you'll see people in the control room like going, no, or Shinji or Asuka, like whatever. Nothing. This time. Just shock. Oh, other times they've screamed and run.
I was not concerned because I know Rey is a time clone. And also, I know that she is shown in the poster of the movie that comes after the show. So I assume she survives. I was not concerned. It was a reveal, but I wasn't really surprised. So you were waiting on bated breath until
Yeah, like I was
his phone
scared.
call came in.
I was worried, and no one else was apparently. This is even after us having pretty solid suspicions that there's more than one Ray, or has been more than one iteration of Ray. Go ahead, Steven.
I do think it does sort of go into that with Ray is talking to, or not Ray, I'm sorry, Shinji is talking to Masato, and Shinji says the tears just won't come. And I think at this point, there's been so much stuff thrown at him that he can't emotionally process it anymore. Eventually, the human mind just can't take that sort of emotional stress one after another. You become absolutely just deaf to it, and it doesn't impact you. So I honestly, Shinji could have just reached that point of his emotional rope where it's not that it doesn't affect him as, or it doesn't have that. How do I want to say this? It has the same relevance to him, but because he is so numb now, it doesn't have the same impact.
Conspiracy
Gary
theory
is
number 3.
Oh, okay, great.
He does not have tears because the angel stole his tears. Because there's a very poignant scene that Ray had tears, and she's like, "Whose tears are these? Are these my tears? Are they angel's tears? Are they the Ava's tears?" It's because the angel stole his tears. Also, I want to point out, I was obviously leaning on the edge of my seat, ready for a conspiracy theory, and I look at Tyler's screen, and he's just like shaking his head because he knows he can just see the car crash coming, and he's just like, "No, don't do it, don't do it."
Yeah, I'm talking about this emotional numbness that's going through Shinji because of traumatic events, and Gary is at the absolute closest he could be to the webcam with his finger shaking like a madman.
And Tyler's like, we're really gonna have to live through this, aren't we?
Just Gary giddy with glee, ready to spout his conspiracy theory upon us.
Yes. I regret nothing. Anyway, sorry I destroyed Steven's poignant moment about how he's been so broken and that he doesn't have tears.
I feel like we get that with that scene with Shinji and Masato. I feel like that's almost an indication that like everyone's a little bit broken at this point. Shinji is at the point where no tears can come, and Masato tries to comfort him through physical affection.
That's a very kind way of
that. Yeah,
it's a very kind way of putting that.
yeah. It's the common theory of that scene is that she's going to try and get this 14-year-old kid laid to distract him from Ray's death.
Whoa!
So,
did not dig that deep.
Yeah.
That's how I took that.
What?
Yeah.
She was just
Did
like,
not go that far either, I guess. Like,
I was.
Bull.
Okay, so the two people who've seen the entire show sexualized that scene. The three of us who have not seen the show, no sexual undertones. Let that be noted.
Sorry, I feel like I should grab.
I just like thought it, like he was emotionally distraught. He couldn't cry, and he was more sad because he couldn't cry. He couldn't release it. He didn't have a cathartic release of his sadness. And then Masato tries to like put her hand on his back to kind of calm him, like a mother would. And he's just like, "Get your effing hands off me."
And what she also says, "This is the only thing I can do to comfort you." I'm pretty sure that's
which is just a hand, literally a helping hand.
Yeah, definitely, just a helping hand. Also, I have a bridge to sell you.
So there's, I think, some background that like this is how affection is shown in other animes as a kind of a trope to begin with, and the things that Masato says afterwards about like, oh, is it because he's just so afraid of women that he doesn't want this?
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes to hang out with Pen Pen, and Pen Pen doesn't want to hang out, and she goes like, oh, I just feel really lonely. And I think it's established previously in the episodes that like Masato likes to party and things whenever she's lonely. So there's ways to read into that, and I admit probably the first time I watched it, I didn't necessarily catch it as well, but reading up on theories of the show and things like that, then it's like, oh, okay, cool.
So you're reading about the other people's conspiracy theories about the time clones online?
Yeah, I'm moonlighting with other conspiracy theorists.
Gary
Ooh,
Gary
you
getting
are just one of the
offended.
dozens.
JC's secretly taking all the conspiracy theories and transplanting them to some Evangelion message board there. What do you guys think about this? Gendo really is a time clone.
One of the most up votes at the end of the podcast will win a prize for Gary.
Yeah, so Gary, good news. Maybe you're not the only person with the theory. Bad news is it means that you weren't the first one to think of it.
I did note that and this is both from that scene and from earlier in the episode, I wrote down Masato's also losing it. Her room looks like trash. It is filled with garbage. It has all those cans of coffee, which, by the way, Tyler looked up that screenshot. It is definitely coffee. Fantastic call out on that because I did think that was beer. And then she is seeking physical intimacy with a 14-year-old and just saying how lonely she is. Like, this is going back to we don't know what everyone else is experiencing. Everyone is having a bad time right now. Everyone. There isn't anyone that is happy or having a great. Even Pen Pen probably is having some horrific crisis that we can't even begin to imagine. And I hope they don't show us what Pen Pen's crisis is. But like everyone is having it really bad right now. Gary.
I disagree. Gendo's
Okay.
doing fine. So is NERV employee not Toji. I'm sure he's doing fine.
Fair enough. I'm sure.
Kensuke, his classmate, he's probably doing fine.
Gensuke?
He's just sad that why are the kids in my class not showing up to
Right,
school
yeah.
anymore?
How am I going to be able to tell them about the second impact?
Anyway, I just wanted to disagree with Stephen because he's
Fair
probably
enough.
right. Like, honestly, everyone is in kind of an emotional roller coaster right now, and for very different reasons. And they're not talking to one another. That's what's worse.
No.
Is that like Masato is the only one that knows that Kachi is dead. Maybe Ritsuko knows. Maybe Gendo probably knows, and maybe Fuyutsuki knows, but
Bet Fuyutsuki killed him.
you never know. But like Asuka doesn't know that Gendo's dead. Ray doesn't know even know who Gendo is, and Shinji
Kaji.
doesn't know. What did I
Kaji.
say?
You were saying Gendo instead of Kaji.
We knew what you meant. We knew what you meant.
What if Kaji is time Shinji Gendo?
I didn't.
Oh,
I was sitting there
no.
being like, Ray definitely knows who Gendo is.
No.
It's like, Gary, you've missed
Sorry.
something.
Kaji. Well, after this episode, maybe I won't have to bring Kaji into conversations anymore, unless he's in.
We don't know about if his flowers are getting watered yet, so.
We don't.
I mean, it's been at least a few days. They're so dead.
But I agree with Gary that no one's talking to each other. It gets back to the no one is talking to each other. No one is. Everyone has those small secrets that they're not talking about, and they're becoming huge. They're becoming big time secrets that they're not talking about. And it is becoming emotionally draining on every single person in the series. And I don't know how you keep that running.
Yeah, as Eva is, haven't really dove too deep into it as we've discussed it, but it was originally a show designed to interrogate the creator's depression that he was experiencing. And I feel like that sort of isolationism that you put yourself into through a depressive state, like we're really starting to feel that here. Everyone is going through possibly their worst times of their lives right now. And instead of reaching out for the humanity that they share, they're just finding themselves more and more alone, whether it's through people dying or being injured or their own just hubris in Asuka's case. They just keep finding themselves alone, and that ends up being what the Angel and Rei have their own discussion about, is that loneliness that they feel.
As the viewer, I feel like I have been doing the rewatch. I feel alone on an island because I constantly don't know what's going on. They drop like breadcrumbs, and I just want to know what's going on. Can't you tell? I have a full conversation. Like, I just don't know what's going on.
I almost want to be around Gary when we get to the end of this show, when he watches the final couple episodes and everything gets revealed.
Sure, nothing gets revealed. I'm sure it's lost. I'm sure it's just like, oh, we don't know what happened here, what this person is. I'm sure it's just there's just loose strands they just forget about, and they're like, oh, well, we'll cover it in season 3.
I've never watched Lost.
A show that ended so cleanly that they famously made a movie to back it up and say, hey, here's a different ending. So look forward to hearing the thoughts on episode 26.
I empathize with JC in terms of, you do feel, and actually to use Gary's words in the opposite way that he intended them, I do feel the loneliness that these people are feeling as well. When you're watching this, it makes you feel sad. It makes you feel kind of disconnected. It makes you feel not around it makes you feel the sadness that these characters are feeling. And that is hard. And like myself, at one of the hard parts, I was sitting on my chair that obviously everyone else can't see where I'm sitting, but I'm sitting at my desk. Amanda's sitting on the couch, and like one of these hard parts comes up, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go sit next to Amanda now. And so I got up and I sat next to Amanda because it's like, this is depressing. This is genuinely depressing, and you need some way to kind of relieve that, because you can see the characters going down this Greek tragedy where you see what the solution could be. They could reach out to each other. They could talk to each other. They could share this knowledge, which for all his negatives, Kaji shared knowledge and was talking to people around him and kind of bringing them all together. He's gone. No one else is doing that. And you just say, just talk to each other. Why don't you just talk to each other? But they're not going to. And so you watch it unfold. You watch the car crash happen.
I feel loneliness and depression when I watch these, but mostly because I don't know the answers, and I know that hopefully somebody else will catch the missing pieces, and I feel incomplete until someone can explain to me what's going on and what I missed. And that apparently there was a sexualized scene that you two saw that we didn't. And conspiracy theories. Like, that's the only joy I get to feel.
Wait. Is that a conspiracy? Was that another one?
No.
Fine.
Just my joy is conspiracy.
Well,
anyway, what part are we at?
To continue the episode, Rei explodes. Rei goes boom.
Explodes. I have that note too. Rei explodes. That was a bullet point. Rei explodes.
What a segue.
Right.
Where were we? Rei explodes.
Got it. She explodes.
And I think it's interesting to watch. So she goes, no, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to let this happen to Shinji. Because the angel does this weird thing. It takes the form of Rei in front of Shinji to stop Shinji from knifing the thing. And we've seen before that Shinji can't kill innocent people. I don't think that taking the form of Rei in front of him now, it's like, is this what you want? Is this blah, blah, blah? And he can't he's kind of at an indecisive moment. So Rey's like, nah, this ain't happening. And she somehow absorbs the angel into the Eva and then causes her own Eva to go critical. And there's some lever that she pulls, and it causes her drive to implode, and you see pieces of the angel's growth go boom, 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 woof, and no one can see me. I'm making all sorts of hand signs here, but just absolutely freaking nukes the place. There's a lake where her evil was after this, and
on the rewatch,
yeah.
I thought it had to do with the dummy plug. Like, I thought it was very the symbolism was because of the dummy plug and Rey's connection to that's why. But also, I still think that the Avas and the angels are the same race. They're the best analogy is either they're the same genealogical entity or they're alien versus predator. That's all I've gotten so far. Is it's like two alien races that both one crashed on Earth and the other one is trying to take over Earth. But
Yeah,
still don't
maybe.
know.
But I mean, that does lead to they start searching for the pilot for anything, and they can't find anything of anyone. It finally shows Ritsuko saying, "Oh, we're gonna classify this top secret sort of thing, blah blah blah." Zooms out, and you see the escape pod just beaten to crap. Tyler?
Slightly before that, though, you see inside of the pod there with the hand.
I actually missed that, so I didn't see that personally. I didn't.
See a hand.
I don't recall this either, so I'm curious what scene this is.
Does Tyler have a super secret version of the episode
that's
that
what I'm
goes
wondering.
hand?
I'll send a screenshot of what I'm talking about to you guys here, but you can keep going.
Okay, are we ready to jump to Rey being alive?
Yeah, and then we go through that entire Shinji thing, and then guess what? Rey's alive! Hooray! So, what do you guys think about Rey being alive?
She obviously has amnesia. She doesn't remember being in battle. She doesn't remember saving Shinji. And then she says she's the third. I'm the third, which is some sort of clone or time clone variant.
So, like, did they just think that, I don't know, I assumed she was a clone, that we actually did lose that version of Rey. Oh, I'm sorry, Steven. I jumped in front of you because I knew that you knew what you were talking about, and I don't, so. But I was like, did they just think that they could play it like she had no memory? Like, you could reasonably say, oh, she's got some recent amnesia. What about the rest? How far does this memory, how far do these pieces remember? I don't know. How do they have her memory on a jump drive somewhere? Go
No,
ahead, Steve.
I think that in the hospital she says exactly the truth. They ask, "Hey, what happened? Like, do you not remember?" And she says, "I don't have those memories." She doesn't say, "I don't remember." She says, "I don't have those memories."
Okay. Who are the other two clones, and what is their chronology in the show? I had a list on this. I assume that Rey is still a clone of Shinji's mom.
Okay.
The first clone dies when Ritsuko's mom strangles her to death.
Okay.
The second clone dies at the beginning of episode 1 before the show, because in the first episode, Rey is in the hospital recovering. That's clone 2. And then, crap, that would mean that she's clone 4. That's what I was trying to figure out. Where did the clones live or die?
I guess. What do you guys think? I won't say anything.
I think we saw a whole bunch of spare parts for her, so they just pick out a new doll per se and download the latest memory into her.
So what deaths are chronologically accurate? Is it being choked by Ritsuko's mom, and then everything in between that is just her replacement parts?
So I think it's being choked by Ritsuko's mom would have been the first clone that, for the first thing that died. Then 2 was basically everything after that until she explodes there, fighting the angel, and then 3 is what we see now. So that's why she's the third.
Okay, the version that gets choked, do you think that's the original Rei, or do you and everything is cloned off of that, or do you think that Rei is a clone of somebody? I think it's Shinji's mom.
I think that Rei is something. I don't think there's a Rei person out there, but I think it is something.
I also noticed on the second watch through, she cries at glasses. She's holding these broken glasses that you see in a previous episode when Shinji's in her apartment, that there's these broken glasses, and she cries at them again, and she like tries to crush them in her hands. And so I assume that has some symbolism, that she hates people with glasses.
And that's where it went.
Yes.
You know whose glasses those are, right, Gary?
Gendo's?
Yes. Okay.
There was a previous episode where Gendo rushed to pull Rei out of Eva
Oh yeah, that's right.
pod and burns his hands and drops his glasses and they break. And she's kept Rei 2, as we now know, kept those in her apartment as a memento of this time that somebody cared for her. And then now Rei 3 says
he doesn't remember that memory and still crushes the glasses.
Well, I think that's why she's going to crush the glasses. Like, these are broken glasses. These are worthless things. And so I think she's initially going to crush them. But then she begins crying and she doesn't understand why she's crying. That's how I read that scene, is that there's some part of her that is remembering that shouldn't remember.
I guess how I read that scene, and I read it even a little differently than that. I read that scene that she picks up the glasses and she knows what the glasses are at least from. I mean, she might not have a memory, but she knows what they're from. But that's not her. That was Rei 2. This is Rei 3. So these glasses, this person who went so far out of his way to save the previous version of her didn't save her the last time and basically got her killed. So what do these glasses mean now?
Now you have the two first watchers disagreeing on how to interpret scenes.
Yeah, right?
Well,
a lot going on.
That's all I got out of that Rei. Like, which clone is she? And then the glasses. Then I think one of the next scenes was like Ritsuko, like naked in front of the color council.
So
which led
point
to
of order
conspiracy
that
number
has
4.
been.
No.
Go on. Let's go ahead and get the conspiracy theory out of the way first.
Yeah, get the conspiracy. Yeah.
Then we'll discuss real shit.
Real shit. Rei may be a clone of Ritsuko, because every time you see Rei, she's naked like Ritsuko is in front of the color council.
Sure. So, anyways, getting to I think the color council
seems really intrigued, because I don't know if there's some through line
just
that
trying
I
to figure out how
tapped.
No, I'm just really.
Well, GC, there were.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No.
It wasn't the color council though, right? It was the monolith council. The stone.
Yeah. Seal.
And that was a sly addition to the last cheat sheet, was that we previously were discussing Sele and the Color Council, or the Human Immortality Council, as the same entity. Some point in previous episodes, we start hearing people discuss the council. Oh, I mean Sele. They are separate things. Whenever you see the monoliths, that is Sele, which consists of, Steve may need to correct me, is it 11 monoliths?
I did not count.
Yeah,
I see
there's
9 listed. I see 5, 6,
11.
7, 8, 9.
I see 11.
Let's say
yeah, so it could be 11. I can't remember if it was 11 or if it goes back to that fun number 13. But then the Color Council or the Human Instrumentality Council, they are the ones where they appear as colorful projections, and that is a smaller council that I believe is just 7 members. And within that, so Sele controls NERV, but the Human Instrumentality Council is kind of the smaller group that has these grand ambitions, and Sele is the part that's actually putting those plans to fruition. We don't know beyond that much more, but Sele is kind of the big organization in charge of it, and then the council within it is driving this human instrumentality thing.
So after this nuke goes off and we find out Ray's still alive somehow, and she goes through her glasses, it cuts to the seal, or to the Sele seal, however we want to call it.
Literally anything.
Yeah, right. Do whatever we want. But it cuts to them, and they say they're upset with Gendo, because Gendo got rid of the Spear of Longinus in the last episode. He launched it into the stratosphere. And they're saying, well, is he working against us now? We released his Fuyutsuki. Well, then but he's still useful to us. What we're going to need is another sacrifice. And that is why Dr.
Akagi.
Thank you,
Ritsuko.
Dr. Yeah, Ritsuko Akagi is sent there. Ritsuko is the sacrifice that Gendo's willing to make. He's willing to get rid of her to get them off his back.
How is she sacrificed? Like, because she knows all the information, they want to squeeze her for information, or
Because they
just wanna
can't have
murder
Ray.
somebody?
Because they can't have Ray. Because he's not going to send Ray, so he has to send someone else, basically, for them to interrogate, for them as a stand-in, and they say as a sacrifice in the place of Ray, and they determine it is going to be Dr. Akagi, and that is basically Gendo saying Ray is more important than Akagi at this point in time, which is going to be important.
That
And
into my belief that Ray is a clone of Ritsuko, because they said we're sending this person in place, like that they were interchangeable. They're the same person.
I don't think they're saying they're interchangeable. I think they're saying Ray is less disposable than is Ritsuko. Ritsuko is disposable. I think that's what they're getting at.
Is there some percentage of the secrets? Like, I have obviously everything's gray. Does Sele know everything about Adam and the Spear of Longinus and everything Ritsuko knows? Or is there I just always assumed that Gendo was running a science project but not telling Sele the entire story.
Yeah, sure, seems
I
like to
thought
me.
they sent Ritsuko because Ritsuko's the only one who knows where the bodies are buried, and so they want to talk to her also because she's the one that Ray's cloned off of. But that's my thing.
I wasn't sure how much to dive into it when we first got the first inklings of it, but it's from the Gehern episode where they flash back with Fuyutsuki being interrogated that after Yui Ikari's death, Gendo starts working with Keel on a new project, the Human Instrumentality Project, and I believe that's the first point that we get the Instrumentality Council starts to form at that point. But he's been working with Sele this whole time, as far as building up Gehern and now NERV. So in terms of the secret stuff, Sele has this larger project that they are wanting the angels for. They know about the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're the ones that are talking about it and saying there's only one angel foretold in the Dead Sea Scrolls that's left. The promised time is nearly upon us. So they have grand plans for the angels, the Avas, all these things. Human Instrumentality Council, I don't know if it's anything necessarily that we know if they're working with or against the Sele overarching plan. At least we know that Sele has a plan, and Gendo seems to have his own plan that's potentially working counter to it.
Also, I thought that the Spear of Longinus allowed them to make more Avas. Like, because they're like, oh, well, you lost the spear. Now we can't have any more Avas. Like, that was the secret formula that allowed them to make more Avas.
I think that was a separate line where they talk about how their plans are changed now because they've lost the spear. But they also say that we need to go ahead and finish up the production. We need to rush the production on these last 4 mass production Avas. So that way they will have what we were told 7 last time. So with another 4, they'll have 11 under their control that aren't under Gendo's.
And they're going to obliterate Tokyo 3.
Rather, the obliteration of Tokyo 3 is actually a boon for their plans, because the explosion that Rei does is actually on the edge of Tokyo 3. So Tokyo 3, you're worried about collateral damage with Asuka's gun. How about sending off a Rei nuke in the middle of the city? Now we have some collateral damage.
Was the spear keeping Adam under control? When they removed the spear, like, more grew.
Legs started to grow.
Like, I thought maybe that was why they were, like, so mad about losing it, other than obviously the fact that it's a valuable weapon or whatever. But
Steven, do you remember what was said in the previous episodes about the specifics of the spear? I'm trying to remember if I have notes on it somewhere.
I don't, not off the top of my head.
then I shall wait to be enlightened.
Well, we'll play Hallelujah and shine light on you, and you can get in touch with your inner self.
Perfect.
There we go. The next time I see you all, I'm just gonna grab the flashlight on my phone, shine it at Gary's face with Hallelujah playing on my phone.
God,
I want to be greeted like that every time, actually.
do you?
My selfie life had colors, so I was just playing with the colors of my selfie light.
I'm just gonna shake my
I
head at
saw,
Gary.
yeah, I did see a rainbow go across Gary's face. That was just his colorful personality.
Ugh.
So we're all leading to one last thing here, right?
Yep.
And
For your information, I have 3 different notes left.
then
I have
do
3
those.
different notes, Steven. Take
do
more
those.
notes, Steven.
There's an Eva graveyard.
That is exactly where I was going.
Kaji had 36 other methods to tell the truth, but hopefully this is the one that will get through. And Ritsuko and her mother and daughter alike, both hurting Rei.
Brutal but fair.
They're both fools for a man.
Yeah, that's what I caught. I caught that they're both fools for a man, meaning that Ritsuko is also in love with Gendo.
Ah.
I
Telling you, those serial killer eyes.
like
Jeez,
this
no
man has
joke.
women throwing themselves at him. For why?
Sometimes literally in Naoko's case, yeah.
Power's the best in aphrodisiac?
So I wanted to touch on a part here to make sure I was understanding this, if they were explaining this correctly. The I guess we'll just call them clones of Rei that were in those containers. They're talking about those are the dummy plugs, or those are parts to the dummy plug, or something like that. Is it that basically they just take those clones, shove them in a tube, and then that's what they call the dummy plug? It is basically like a very basic clone copy of like an incomplete copy of Rey that is used as like an autopilot feature for
Oh
the.
yeah, that makes more sense.
Or am I digging too far? And this is going to be answered here in
That-
like the next couple episodes.
That was kind of my understanding as well. And yes, our experts are very quiet suddenly. So
I'd just like to hear what your guys' theories on it are, honestly.
That's what it seems like to me is like, why would you clone an entire human like that? Other than to have copies to then, this is me like thinking of watching like The Sixth Day and some of those other cloning movies that you make all of these blank copies that you then implant memories and stuff into. Whereas with this, like they're implanting just the basic fighting knowledge that Rey would have. Carrie?
I feel like they grinded Rey's personality down to someone who has no ambitions, no, like, just follows orders. Like they got her ground down to like she's not like Asuka who wants recognition, not like Shinji who wants to be loved. She just does the job. And so clones of her literally are just like blank slates that will follow orders. So you can just like put a little memory chip in her head and just let the computer run the giant things like Gundams and just
she designs her apartment on that room that she is like created in.
yeah. And she just, I honestly, her apartment has lots of garbage on the floor. And that's probably the only difference.
They did download the cleaning file into her.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gahern and NERV staff typically cleaned up after her. So now that she's on her own, she doesn't have somebody to clean up. Yeah.
Fair.
I think that it's especially as we get into Rey 3, we're starting to find that there is more to Rey's personality than purely following orders. Rey 2 even was the one that started to have feelings about Shinji and respecting him and being thankful to him, and she's growing as a person from a lab. She was born without any sort of real personality, and now was slowly becoming human in a sense. And then that kind of gets reset, but Rey 3 seems to be carrying some of that forward in some way. And the dummy plug system, I think, is they mentioned that like all these copies have no souls. I think I recall that the dummy plugs also were lacking a soul, but still were able to sync with the Evas. So yeah, I do think it is that they are taking those soulless bodies and they're not giving them the full Ray brain and just shipping them into a Eva and sending it off. So that's Ray with no restraints, essentially, no concept of a psyche or a human soul whenever it's going in just full attack mode.
And then I didn't document this like word for word here, just kind of the basics of it. The next point was like, so it's God, Adam, Evas with human souls, and then Rey was the only one born with a soul. Kind of two separate parts, but it was kind of all in that same. They're talking about the genesis of how they got to where they were in the Eva creation and everything. Gary's got nothing except a chocolate bar.
Hungry? Why wait? Yeah, as someone who has seen the show before, I backed up on that scene a dozen times on my last rewatch just to be sure I took notes to make sure I was like, all right, let's follow the threads here because it's a huge info dump in basically like 10 sentences.
Mm-hmm.
So mankind stumbles across God, tries to make him their own. Undeterred, they then tried to resurrect God. That was Adam. So the God and the Adam are the same thing. We made humans from Adam in God's image. Those are the Avas. And those are intrinsically soulless, so they imbue them with one. To me, that's like the concept of taking the human pilots that have souls, putting them inside the Ava. Now they've got a soul and they can do their thing. The only vessel that contained a soul was Rey. Only her. That part, like, I don't know how you decide to, oh, I'm going to make an Ava, but this one's going to have a soul. Because now we need to figure out where the soul come from. I'm pretty sure you don't just make souls. You don't just go down to the soul store. Yeah, or in other words, the Chamber of Guff.
Yep.
But yeah. So
The Chamber of Guff is where all souls are stored. That is a biblical.
I thought it was a MacGuffin.
You're a MacGuffin.
Chamber
Haven't we
of
already
Guffin.
discussed that there are no MacGuffins in this? Everything is related.
And I was going to bring up here too, like this discussion here kind of touches on a little bit of the conversation we had, I think, in the last episode of like, had I watched this show straight through, I would have probably just sat down with a wiki and go, okay, what am I missing here and stuff like that. This is definitely one of those things that, and even too, with the way we're watching it, like one at a time, like it feels like sometimes I'm not keeping stuff from every time of just, because going back to our watch of Game of Thrones, I think I mentioned multiple times, I had watched that show multiple times to basically every time a new season was out, I was rewatching the entire thing. So picking up details as we were going on and stuff like that. Whereas this, it's always been the struggle of like, okay, I'm watching this show and I've learned everything they're talking about basically has some point to it, but I don't want to go look up like what'd you say, Steven? The hall or
Chamber of Guff.
Chamber of Guff.
Yeah, the Chamber of Guff. I probably would have went and looked that up, but like it's just the thing of like I don't want to spoil myself now going forward. So it's been really a struggle sometimes with like watching this and going like, I would normally have looked a lot of this stuff up, but then it's like, nope, can't, because I know it's just going to spoil everything that comes afterwards for it.
Well, wait till your rewatch of this.
Yeah. Someday,
It's going to be good.
Someday down the line when I rewatch the entire show.
That's a nice
Yeah,
thing.
then
Too,
you'll be able to
compared to rewatching Game of Thrones, this is going to be like over in a day.
Right?
Finish it all up.
Yep. Anything else from anyone here?
I just have a question. Well, this isn't about this episode. So someone else says something about this episode. Go for it. All right. I have a question for the group.
Yes. Gary with a monster.
Yeah, I had to take a sip. I was mid eating my granola bar, and you were like, hey, anyone have questions? I was like, you see the information that Kaji had was delivered to Misato, and you see this, it looks like a capsule, like a vitamin capsule, but you see it in the lovemaking scene that goes on for way too long before Kaji gets murdered. And I guess it's basically a USB device. It has this like info dump of all this information that he like sleuthed out of what was really going on. So what I took from that was that when Ritsuko brings Misato down and you find out the reveal of Rei was born in a lab, the exact words were, did Misato already have this information? Did Kaji already gain this information? It was in his magical USB drive of all the secrets. Because what she says is, this is not what I came here for. Almost, and on the rewatch, I was like, maybe Ritsuko was trying to like throw out some secrets, but like this isn't really the good secret. Like this is like kind of a sacrifice secret. It's like Rei's actually a clone, and Misato's like that's I already know that. Like I thought on the rewatch, like that was kind of informative. Is that Misato already knew that Rei was a clone, but when did she know Rei was a clone? Did she know since the first episode, or did she just learn based on Kaji's USB thumb drive of knowledge? Steven's just smiling and shaking his head, so he can go fuck himself.
I was going to take it as Kaji basically info dumped information to Misato there and said, you have everything you need, you just need to now put it all together. So the conversation with Ritsuko was basically then putting the puzzle pieces together. Where does everything line up? Like, I don't think she fully knew everything in the last couple of episodes. I think, like, definitely before she didn't know. I don't think Rey was a clone or anything like that. But definitely, like, the last couple episodes, you saw her piecing together stuff and talking, like, trying to parse out different things. Like when she talked about the third impact not occurring because of Adam being touched by another angel, there she got that sussed out from Gendo and stuff. So she's been piecing together everything that Kaji kind of gave her, and this was kind of, like I said, the final info dump that just unlocked everything for her, probably.
I don't know, but I just got that, like, obviously Ritsuko is like, oh, like, info dump, like, Rey's a clone, who as the audience you're like, aha, but Masato's like, that's old news, like, I already knew that. JC?
To me, one, the pill with a chip that we see that being given to Masato, and then suddenly it's like we hear the voice clip of like, "Oh, I tried 36 other methods, but if you found this one, you managed to finally crack the last potential code." And it's like, you just gave her the pill, man. Like, it didn't seem like it was that hard of a nut to crack. You didn't have, you probably, that would probably be my, like, step number 2. Be like, oh, first check the messages that he left. Oh, okay. Well, he didn't reveal anything there. Hey, he gave me that pill. That seemed important.
I just assumed he, like, mailed a USB thumb drive to her, like, a month later.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, that's how I
Maybe that
got
was
it.
just
Like,
the second voice message about the 36 different methods. That was just the voice message on the pill on the chip within the pill, and then separately there was a 37th method that actually gave the information. But
it's the future. You don't know what technology is. Like, you could, like, set a
nanometers, son.
voicemail to be sent a week from now.
There you go.
Just for
Outlook
miraculous
send
info
later, yeah.
dump.
Schedule text message, voicemail.
That's right. Oh, but then yes, from the context of how Masato reacts to things, I get the sense that she was aware that, like, yeah, Rey was grown in a lab. Rey was part of this whole system where they had a mass graveyard of Evas in a dumping ground below Terminal Dogma. But then, like, the extent to which the clones were making up the dummy system, and that they were just completely dozens of copies of Rey just floating in an LCL pool, that could have sworn I recall seeing, like, surprise in her face at that point, that, like, oh, this is what you guys are doing. You guys haven't just raised Rey in a lab, you've grown her.
And she said something like, these are all, like, blank copies of her or whatever, but, like, they said Rey or something, and then they all, like, open their eyes or, like, turn their head a little bit to concentrate on that.
They waved.
Creepy.
Yeah.
And they're all smiling. They're all very smiley.
Yeah, they are all
uh,
smiling. Not what
we've
you
talked
normally
about in
see,
previous
Rey.
We've talked about in previous episodes, scenes that I'm happy that no one walks in while I'm watching, and that was, like, top
Yeah.
10 of, like,
Well, that's
I need to finish watching this before my wife gets home.
yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry, they're
about
about
to
to
I
fall
get
apart.
through that. And then
But that's something I did notice as well, is that they take the effort. Like, they've shown basically naked women before on this show, and it's always just been kind of an outline of the body. I mean, you can see the breasts and you can see the butt, but that's basically kind of it. You can see the shapes,
Barbie doll style, yeah.
Barbie doll style. They go into detail to animate the nipples of every single one of these girls floating thing. I think it's trying to make you feel that much more uncomfortable that you're seeing all these. They don't want you just to know that they're naked. They viscerally want you to feel, yeah, this is weird. This is very strange. This is not something you should be okay with.
yes, it was awkward.
Can confirm. Not
Also, sorry. You can go.
No, that's all. Sorry.
I still, like, I think I'm confused on Ritsuko's relationship, other than maybe she's, like, has a romantic relationship with Gendo. That, like, I still think that she's more involved. Like, I'm just trying to read through the lines that, like, how was Rey made? Like, maybe Ritsuko was part of that. Maybe it was Shinji's mom. Maybe it was Ritsuko's mom. Like, it's just so many question marks.
I think we see from the Gaharen episode that Ritsuko was, is it like her first day going around tour with her mom that that she gets introduced to young Rei from Gendo, and he's like, oh yeah, this is a friend's kid. Friend was like, hey, I know a guy with serial killer eyes. I'm gonna have him watch my kid. So I don't think that Ritsuko is necessarily involved that deeply in the creation of Rei, but that I would. She definitely knows the history of how we got to this point, and yeah, the connection to Gendo now, I feel like, is Gendo seems to always involve people, whether it was Naoko, Ritsuko's mom, whenever they were starting the instrumentality project, and she was discussing to Gendo that, like, oh, you're still going to put your wife first. That's why you're doing this new project, and that's why I'm going to be second to your dead wife at this point. And now, Naoko had that inside knowledge then. Ritsuko now seems to have the inside knowledge that Gendo has been sharing with her, either from just pillow talk or whether she is actually directly helping with further levels of the project, which we know she's been further involved than she's lets like Misano know, for example.
She's done something. She knows something. She knew this.
I questioned how long Ritsuko was in a relationship with Gendo, going back to seeing her mom kiss Gendo. If she had a romantic relation before that point, conspiracy theory, they've had a romantic relationship that far back, and then the person that shoots Ritsuko's mom is actually Ritsuko when she's choking Rei.
Isn't she like maybe high school age at that point in time?
College age.
She's come back from college at that point. Whenever, because she's working at NERV at that point.
Gotcha.
Whenever she sees Gendo and
also still not convinced that anyone shot Ritsuko's mom.
That as well.
Steven, you're getting dangerously close to having you need your own conspiracy theories this episode.
Well, I have a question for the group if we're done with the
shot a conspiracy.
I have a question for the group, minus JC. JC doesn't get to answer this one. So, there is one angel left in these cometh 2 episodes. Angels have taken all these weird, fantastic shapes, and they've become more and more godly, I would say, in these last episodes. I want you guys to take a guess. What do you think the last angel will actually be?
An angel shape.
Carrie has to go.
What?
Carrie puts a finger up to go last.
Sorry.
Amanda, I'll let you lead off.
I said an angel shape with like actual wings and everything.
Traditional, just like proper feathers and everything.
Okay.
I also did note that they had said one more angel, but that we have multiple episodes. 2 or 3? I thought we had 3
more episodes left.
So I was like, noting that. Wonder how that's going to work out. Can't wait to find out.
Actually, it turns into Dragon Ball Z for the last 3 episodes, where the angel's powering up for 3 episodes.
Okay. Cliffhangers. Love it.
And I am going to reserve my judgment until the next recording because I've read the little blurb on the thing. It hasn't explicitly said anything, but I'm fairly confident and kind of judging by the after the episode, like on next time on the episode stuff. I'm like, I think I know what this is.
Right. I pull IMDb up, but I like blur my eyes and like been very careful about not going too far down. Can't let you guys ruin it. Okay.
Boobs, naked lady, or dick and balls?
What?
Steven asked the question. Regret nothing. Steven asked, like, what is the next angel gonna be? And I was like, it's going to be a giant dick. Like, that was the first.
So Gary does this, and literally all 4 of us just all cover our faces. Like,
Steven asked the question. I was like, what shape is it going to be? And I was like,
well, comments of Gary do not represent the views of the Terrible Video Gamers Club Rewatch podcast.
Gary, remember, there's inside thoughts and outside thoughts. You let that inside thought come outside again.
It's Steven's fault. He asked the question. Yes, Steven, what were you thinking? You gave Gary free rein. Steven instantly regretting his question.
Steven handing the whiteboard and marker to Gary in front of the class, like, what are you wanting to draw today?
And everyone in the class being like, this was a big mistake.
What a bad idea.
Okay, so when Steven said, what do you think the next Dave is going to be? I was like, it's going to be something very strong, something with very strong imagery. So that's why I was thinking, like, maybe it's like a human-shaped lady, or like it's something that's not an enigma blurb, or like a triangle with googly eyes on it. Like, it's actually something that looks more human. Similar to an actual angel with feathers sounds more believable than, like, it's going to be, like, I don't know, something like, it's shaped like a plane. Like, something...
Yeah. Kensuke is going to be fucking stoked. Sorry.
Anyway, you asked the question,
Okay.
Steven, and you
Yep.
are fully responsible for the answer.
I will say, tying it slightly back into the previous bit of episode discussion regarding angel shapes. I don't know if it was discussed that whenever Ray and the angel are having their discussion about what loneliness is, there becomes a shape that erupts out of her back. That if you put pieces all together, it is all of the angels that we've previously seen mashed
Oh,
together
I did
in
not
an
catch
amalgamation. It's very blink and you miss it sort of thing, but you
Yep.
can frame by frame it and you can see like, oh, here's the pyramid, and then here's like the squid one part of it, and here's the one with the spider tentacles and the eyeballs all over. It's a fascinatingly creepy image.
I did not catch that at all. All right. Do we have anything else we want to discuss before we wrap this episode up? Steven, any more terrible questions to softball to Gary?
Oh, God, no. Oh, I learned my lesson.
What episodes are we watching next time?
Yes, I'm curious about this here. With 3 episodes to go, how are we dividing it up?
First of all, do we have any thoughts on which of those last 2 was rated higher on IMDb?
I would say what? Okay, so what was the bar? It helped to have the bar. I think the second episode.
So, episode 19, the one where Ava goes berserk, is still the highest at 9.3. Episode 20, where Shinji is goop the whole time, was 8.6. Kaji dying and going through all the Geharon stuff was 8.6.
I do think I accidentally did see B, so I will not guess.
I'll be right.
I think that the second episode was rated higher than the first one. I'm going to say the second episode was a 9.2. The first episode was a 9.0.
8.7, and since I can't say 9.2, I'll say 9.1.
Any thoughts, Shatsy?
I'll keep abstaining from this here. I'll leave this for Gary.
Episode 22, Don't Be, 8.6, and episode 23, 8.7.
Oh,
So slightly higher, but yep. Otherwise, they are within the same realm as the previous 2 episodes.
Yeah, I didn't think
that's what I
that
saw.
the first one was a winner at all. Like, I thought it was just a lot of Asuka going crazy. And
It's a savage episode. To me, it's a hard watch. It's one of those where it's like, it is impactful.
That's why I like it, because it is so impactful.
I would rate it highly, and I would not recommend people to like spend a lot of time having fun. Like, oh yeah, you should watch that episode over and over again. It's such a good episode. It's good, but that's why it's also hard to watch. Yeah.
I don't think that it added any context other than that Asuka was crazy. But the Ray episode, the second episode, added a lot more context to Ray.
That's
Tyler's
disappointing.
I should just stop. I've realized I should realize this a long time ago that have wildly different opinions than Gary here, and Gary's allowed to have his own opinions and everything like that. I just think they're wrong most of the time.
All right. So, because I can't figure out how to combat that episode 22 provided no context for Asuka. Next time, episode 24, The Beginning and the End, or Knocking on Heaven's Door, which is one title, or The Last Cometh. And episode 25, Do You Love Me, or The Ending World.
So we are doing 2 episodes, and then
This will be 2 episodes, and then that'll give us a brief discussion to make sure we're all on the same page before we kick it into the last 23 minutes of Evangelion for the TV series portion. Before we then kick it on to the End of Evangelion.
got it.
Which I have never seen.
The movie is there were technically 3 movies. So one was Death, one is called Rebirth, but those are kind of extra scenes that were basically plucked from portions of the episodes. They then made director's cuts of the episodes themselves, which is what Netflix has and what Shotzi has been watching with his copy as well. So we've already seen the content that is in Death and Rebirth. So we will then be watching the End of Evangelion, which is all new material.
Yeah, again, those like first 2 movies are basically just the retelling of the show, just in a movie format with extra scenes somewhat added into it, right?
Yeah, it's essentially if you try to condense the Evangelion 26 episode run here into hour-ish, that's going to be what Death and Rebirth are, which good luck with that.
And
but yeah.
Is it all new animation or something like that, or is it?
There are some bits where
Or was it the movie, like the finale, the movie that we watched? That's the all, because I remember you and I were watching a video one night. You shared a video of.
Yeah. So separately to that, they made the Rebuild series, which is all new animation. That was years after End of Evangelion. That is basically a new telling of the story. So
Gotcha.
that ends up being a whole separate can of worms where it basically starts the same way and then they start twisting the story on its head. So I would love to watch that as well later, but that's outside the purview of the initial show here. This is all the same character canon arc, essentially.
Gotcha.
The Rebuild is totally separate.
Gotcha.
Do the retelling movies, do they have as many cicadas?
We can only hope so. We can only hope.
I have not seen them. I am eager to, because I have seen clips on YouTube, and the animation is incredible for some of the fight scenes. So
yeah, I think I'm going to try and watch those 2 movies before then I watch the final movie that we're going to watch for this podcast.
So the Death Rebirth are within the that's like after the show they make Death, they make Rebirth, and that is just versions of the show as we know it, repackaged. Yeah.
Okay. I want to watch them as part of them jumping into the movie.
Yep, that'd be a totally fair way to do it. It's not necessary, but it would probably be a good little recap as well.
Yep.
So just wanted to clarify that you weren't going to watch like 2 of the Rebuild movies in between, which would be a very confusing way to approach it.
Nope. Yes. Okay. Well, unless anyone has anything else to cover with this final part here, we are going to go ahead and wind down the podcast. We want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. And until next time.
Bye.
Bye.